Okay, I want to start with from the end and work backwards. I think the biggest ticket wedding here was Kat and Freddie. Of course, they did not get married because he said that the timing was not right for them. I'm not sure if it's a timing issue, but I agree it was not right for them. What did you think about Kat's overall reactions to not being married to Freddie?
I think that with time and a good bit of talk therapy, she is going to look back on this as a gift that Freddie has given her because there is no reason she should have wanted to get married to him and say yes in this moment. Even money, even like being like, oh, this is like a secure man. Like she didn't like him.
She didn't like him. They actually, now that I think about it, I can't think of any way in which they bonded or like had something in common. Like there was nothing, there's no relationship there.
And you know what was interesting is I really noticed on the wedding day that she reverted a lot back to some of the sort of like ticks and tactics that she used in the pods where she would be like, "Oh my god, no stop." Like, "Oh, no way." Like, "I can't believe it." These very sort of like this sort of like superficial phrasing that you use when you're like getting to know someone or on a
Mm-hmm.
first and second date. And I felt like she was using it a lot on the wedding day because also her heart was not in it. Like, and I think she knew he was going to say no. There
Yes,
was a bit
I think so
of
too.
pageantry, I think, to what was happening in their wedding.
Yes, because she kept saying in her preparations, I really hope he says yes. And then they cheers to like a yes from Freddie. Like she definitely had the inclination that he probably wasn't going to. And then even after, I think she said it to her friend. She's like, for a second, I thought he might say yes. Like she ultimately knew that wasn't the direction he was headed in. But she still acted like very mad, which I get. Like it is a pretty embarrassing thing. I always like when the person who gets dumped like is salty. So I did enjoy when she whispered to him, "Don't hug me."
Don't hug me. And I was like, Freddie, don't hug her.
Don't hug her.
I mean,
Yeah.
what's interesting is that when Ollie and Demi hugged, I was like, oh, how wonderful. But what is clear, and we'll get to this, is between Ollie and Demi, there is an understanding and agreement of what is going to happen on their wedding day.
Yeah.
And I think Freddie thought they had that same understanding. Like, I think Freddie really came across as like a nice, thoughtful, maybe not like, totally like his EQ may not be the absolute highest, but he seemed nice and thoughtful. And there's almost no chance that he did not suggest to her beforehand that he was not going to say I do. And I feel like that was coming across. But he
Also,
did have his whole fam. I mean,
all the information we have suggests that Freddie would like go out of his way to make sure she knew because he seems like a pretty like empathetic guy, if not the highest EQ, as you said. I do think there's quite a bit of like staging happening in these episodes for the cameras, like his sister doing like a last ditch, like you can't say yes or whatever. He acknowledged that, but also made it clear like it was not because of his sister. Like he'd already gotten to that position or that point. So I do think there's a lot of happening like for the cameras. And also, so you think Ollie was aware that Demi was going to say no?
I think he was fairly aware. I think that like they were pretty much like, it seems unlikely that we'll get to this. I think if she went first, I think if she'd said yes, he may have said yes.
Mm-hmm.
Or I really think he was kind of like waiting to make his decision in the moment. So he was kind of shocked that she said no, but I think they had both come to an agreement that was like, even if we say no, we want to keep dating.
We
like
want to
that,
date, yeah.
that's almost the most of like all seasons of Love is Blind that I've seen a couple be like, we definitely want to keep dating. We're hugging on the way out. We're having drinks with our friends. Like the way he addressed
like,
the
yeah.
crowd was really, I thought, kind of meaningful. And I just think I was just clearly like very taken with Ollie and Demi by the end. And that really happened in kind of like episode 8 and 9. So coming into 10 and 11, I was just like, oh, what is going to happen? And I think that it is very evident how much they care for each other and like how much they respect each other. And in a lot of the other relationships, it's evident that they love each other, but it's not maybe evident that they like respect and really care for one another's outcomes. And that I just always thought was like really evident in Ollie and Demi's relationship, and even in their not breakup, but I mean, the whole thing is like the scientific method of Love is Blind really falls apart when the experimenters are like, and now you have to get married. Like, love could be blind, but it could also be logical, and those two things can like exist at once and don't counteract very well together.
Totally.
So like everyone's finally coming into their logical brain as they are being contractually forced to walk down the aisle. I mean, we do know that much at this point, that like they have to do this. So like I think any real version of Freddie outside of this alleged experiment would have
ended it much sooner.
Yeah.
I just thought Ollie went out of his way to make it seem like he was surprised. Like he was like, did this whole like, huh? And then and then upon second thought, I was like, oh yeah, he probably knew. Like most of these people probably knew. I definitely don't think Kat was surprised. I don't think Ollie was surprised. And then the third non-marriage was Tom and Maria. She was definitely not surprised. She was like she was like, yeah, makes sense.
I think she may have been surprised at the way he did it. I mean, he was just like with the makeup artist thing, like when they talked about her job, like he was straightforward in a way that was harmful and sort of telling of him, I think. I mean, I think what he did was right. Like they do have really fundamental differences in the way that they see the rest of their lives going, that like they at least couldn't go into a marriage this way. But theirs was very much the most like, it ends here, like we aren't moving past this. And I don't know, it was just strange because like we'd seen him talk about it a little bit. I guess I was kind of miffed by the way he like her family was so sweet to him, and like the way that her mom came in and he didn't give like any vocal indication. It's always seems like the hardest on the families.
I totally agree. Also, like everyone just like acting it out. Like, yeah, we're getting dressed up and like this could be my child's wedding day. I think particularly for the women, like this is maybe a gendered opinion, but like putting on like all of like the bride regalia and like the hair and the makeup and then that not being your wedding just kind of seems like a mind fuck to me.
Yeah, I actually didn't think Maria knew. I mean, I'm thinking about it now, and yeah, I mean, she was sort of like solemn in the acceptance of it, but I think she thought there was a chance he was going to say yes. I just don't think she would like bring her dad into it, like the amount of times that she referenced her dad and missing him and wearing his watch. Like, I think if she was for sure that it wasn't happening, she just wouldn't have had that like emotional connection to the day. And she seemingly did. And I think she more so thought, I think he had a bigger issue with their disagreement over finances and sort of like equitable gender breakdown of a heterosexual relationship, which TBH, I think he needs to examine a little bit further, like exactly what his thoughts are and how equitable they are. But I just think, I mean, obviously, yeah, they think differently and you can be in love, but if your lifestyles don't align, then you can't make the largest lifestyle decision there is.
Yeah. The most telling conversation was at the stag do between Freddie and Tom, where they both were just like, yeah, I don't think I'm there. I mean, Tom basically told Freddie at that moment he wasn't going to do it. And then Freddie, in his very sweet Freddie way, was like so pained that he did not feel like this was like his person for forever. So I guess it's interesting. Yeah, I was like, oh, Maria definitely knew, but you make some good points. Maybe she didn't know. I did feel really bad for her mom. I thought that the way that she spoke afterwards made it seem like she was not that upset because she was like, I'm so grateful for this. Like, I think she knows he made the right decision for them. But I also, if you're cosplaying as a bride, I feel like there's just like an element of like the moment where you're like, yeah, I'll say yeah, I'm in all this shit. Why not?
yeah, what's a little annulment here and there? Like, it's just kind of, you're right that she didn't seem that disappointed.
Yeah.
I think she was like surprised, but not disappointed. Like, all of her after statements were like, I was really ready to be a wife and a mother, but they weren't like, I was really ready to marry Tom.
Yeah, it's not like I was ready to be Tom's wife, Tom's
Right.
baby mama. So.
Tom was tech avail and around, and I met him on a Netflix show.